Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle, the show where driven entrepreneurs share the real stories, the real honest struggles, and the hard-won secrets behind performing at their best. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, a personal performance strategist and the founder of TAPS Coaching, where I partner with entrepreneurs to turn real effort into real momentum. Every week, I sit down with an owner-operator who's building something of their own, and we get past the highlight reel to find out what's actually working. Because the truth is, most people don't need more. They need to pay attention to what works for them and do more of that. So whatever you're building, let's stop spinning and start winning. We'll jump into the show right after this. If you're an entrepreneur or owner-operator who's working hard but feeling stuck spinning your wheels instead of building real momentum, I'd love to help. I want to invite you to a free strategy session with one of our performance strategists. We'll help you see what's actually working, what's holding you back, and the clearest next step to get your momentum going again. To claim your free strategy session, head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. We'd love to talk to you. And now back to the episode. What's up, guys, and welcome back to another Friday recap episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. And as always, let me kick it off to start things by asking you something. So this week I want to ask, what are you waiting until, quote, someday to do? That trip, the passion project, the book, the tennis club, the thing you keep telling yourself that you'll do once the business is bigger or once the kids are grown or once you finally retire. What's sitting on that list right now, right this day? And as you think about that, I want you to know that someday is one of the most dangerous words in entrepreneurial vocabulary, because someday isn't guaranteed to anyone. And too many people spend their whole lives building towards a finish line that they never actually get to cross themselves. Today's recap episode is recapping this week's guest, Ohan, who is actually a returning guest, and he has spent nearly 2 decades helping people avoid exactly that mistake we're talking about. And this conversation might change how you think about time itself. So, give a little context on the guest interview episode. This week, I welcome back a good friend of mine, and he's one of our favorite guests too, Ohan Kayikchyan. I hope that I said that correctly. Ohan didn't take offense when I mispronounced it previously. So for everybody else, he's also known as the Money Doctor. And he's also the founder of Alohana Financial. Ohan first came to the show back in 2024, actually. And it was long overdue to have him back. So if you missed the first episode, here's the quick version of his story because it's truly remarkable. Ohan came to the United States from a post-Soviet country through the diversity visa lottery, moving here at 27 years old with a financial background, but not enough English to work in the field just yet. So he started over as a bank teller, a cashier, and slowly worked his way through every single layer of the financial system: private banker, certified financial planner, enrolled agent with the IRS, and eventually the founder of his own firm. But here's what makes Ohan different from every other financial guy out there. He doesn't just optimize your numbers. His entire philosophy is that money is a tool. A financial planning should help you live the life that you actually want now, not just accumulate a pile of money and wait around for retirement to finally enjoy it. So this conversation is about the psychology of money, why waiting until retirement can be a mistake, and how to start living the life that you want a whole lot sooner than you think. So here's the lens for the core frame. Ohan said something that I think applies to way more than just money. He said that some measures managing your finances is 80% behavior and psychology, how you grew up, what you believe, and how you're wired. And only 20% is the actual numbers and the optimization strategies around it. So sit with that ratio, 80% behavior. He even said that AI can already optimize the numbers better than any human can. The math isn't the hard part. The hard part is the human part. The beliefs, the fears, the patterns, the story you tell yourself about money, and about what your life is supposed to look like. And here's why that matters for you as an entrepreneur or even just a generally driven individually. Eventually, everything's going to change. So even if this episode is nominally about finances, almost everything in your business follows the same ratio. The strategy, the tactics, the optimization, that's the 20%. The behavior, like the psychology, self-awareness, beliefs, those things that are driving your decisions, that's the 80%. And most people spend all their energy on the 20% while completely ignoring the thing that actually determines the outcome. So this whole episode is going to be a masterclass in working in that 80%. So the first lesson here is learn the difference between a want and a need. Ohan opened with a distinction so simple it's easy to dismiss, and so important that most adults still get it wrong every single day. He told a story about learning English as a second language, and he admitted that early on he used two words interchangeably because he didn't yet understand how different they actually were. The words were want and need. And when he got into financial planning, he realized that distinction is everything. Even people born and raised speaking English still confuse him constantly when it comes to money. See, a need is the shelter over your head, food on the table, the bottom of the hierarchy, the things that you generally cannot live without. Whereas a want is the type of car that you drive, the size of the house you live in, and here's the key. The want is the part that you actually have control over. Most people miss that half of the financial stress isn't caused by not having enough. It's caused by confusing what you want with what you need, and then feeling like you're failing when you can't afford your wants. And this goes far beyond money. Think about your business or the projects. How many of the things are you treating as needs, like the new software, the fancy branding, the bigger office, that next certification? And like that are actually wants dressed up as like a necessity. How much stress are you carrying because you've convinced yourself that you need something that, if you're honest, is just really a want? So when you can clearly separate the two things happen. Your stress starts to go down, and it's because you finally realize that your actual needs are more covered than your anxiety was telling you. And your decisions get sharper, because you stop pouring resources into the wants you mislabeled as needs. Clarity on want versus need is one of the most freeing things you can build in your money and in your business. And with the prime performance principle of optimization, you've got the whole framework, but the idea behind it is that sustainable growth requires you to be intentional about where your resources actually go. So it's your money, your time, your energy, and you can't be intentional if you can't tell the difference between what's essential and what just feels essential. Naming your wants and needs honestly is where that intentionality starts. Hey, what's up? Sorry for the interruption. It's Rob. One quick thing before we keep going. If you're feeling stuck or like you've lost the momentum that you used to have, here's a simple, free first step. Take the assessment at gettheprime.com. In just a few minutes, it'll show you exactly where you're leaking momentum so you can get that ball rolling again with the Prime app. It's completely free. So if you're new here, this is the best place to start. Go ahead to gettheprime.com and take the free assessment. All right, let's get back into it. So lesson number 2, beware of the lifestyle creep. This lesson is aimed directly at the high performers listening, and it's the trap I see a lot of ambitious entrepreneurs fall into over and over again. Ohan talked about a certain kind of client that he works with. He used the term Henry, which is actually an acronym, and if you guys know me, I'm a big fan of acronyms, and it stands for high earner, not rich yet. These are professionals pulling in serious income like doctors, attorneys, high earners of all kinds who somehow never actually build wealth. And the reason is something called lifestyle creep. Every time the income starts to go up, the lifestyle goes up right alongside of it. A bigger house, a nicer car, more expensive everything. Plus, in a lot of cases, the student loans from the impressive career that got them into that high income in the first place is still there. So they look wealthy, but they're on a treadmill, earning a lot, spending a lot, and never getting ahead. It's not how much you make that determines whether you build wealth. It's the gap between what you make and what you spend. And lifestyle creep is designed to keep that gap at exactly zero or worse, no matter how much you earn. This is so important for entrepreneurs specifically because we tend to think the answer to every financial problem is just to make more money. But if your spending scales up every time your income does, you can 10x your revenue and be exactly same stress, exactly same trap, and exactly same as far from free as you were before. The number of the bank account changes, the feeling never does. The antidote isn't deprivation. Ohan's not saying live like a monk. The antidote is intentionality, deciding in advance what actually matters to you, funding that fully, and then not letting the mindless upgrades eat that gap. It's the difference between spending on what you truly value and spending just because you can. One builds a life, the other builds a cage with really nice furniture. And this comes right back to the framework on prime principle of clarity. Behind it, but is the heart that you have to know the directions you're actually sailing, the vision that's genuinely worth chasing. Because when you don't have a clear picture of what you actually want in your life to be, you fill the vacuum with upgrades. Lifestyle creep is what happens in the absence of a real vision. So set the flag, know where you're going, and the mindless spending loses its grip. And lesson number 3 for you guys is you're not the hero. So learn to listen. This is a part of the conversation that really stuck out because Ohan articulated something that's at the absolute center of how I try to show up for my own clients. Ohan said that when he first became a certified financial planner, he thought he'd figured it all out. He could go tell everyone exactly what to do with their money, and people just didn't take his advice. And it was because he was handing them his answers. Then he tried as a life planner under his mentor, George Kinder, I should say, and it changed everything. He said the biggest shift was realizing I'm not the hero of the relationship. His job is first meeting isn't to talk, it's to listen, to create a space that's judgment-free and guilt-free, and let the client bring out the dreams they've been protecting under their heart. He described couples who've been together for decades learning things about each other for the first time right in front of him, simply because they'd been finally given the space where someone would truly listen without jumping in to steer, judge, or just one-up them. And here's the truth. Most people trying to help don't actually listen. They just wait for their turn to give advice. And advice you hand someone is worth a fraction of the insight they discover for themselves. Ohan even has a name for the discipline it takes. He said the rule is let your thoughts go, let your feelings be, which means when a client mentions a dream, say like a trip to Italy, you don't hijack it with, oh, I've been to Italy, here's what I did. Instead, you hold the space and let them bring out everything that dream means to them. And this is leadership. This is coaching. This is parenting. And this is being a good partner. The most powerful thing you can do for another person usually isn't to give them your brilliant answer. It's to create a space so safe and so free of judgment that they finally say out loud the thing that they've been protecting their whole life. And once they hear themselves say it, that's when it becomes real. That's when they actually move. This is exactly why I structure my coaching the way I do, and it echoes something that I've talked about on the show before. People don't commit to the plans you hand them, they commit to the ones they discover themselves. Ohan built an entire financial planning practice on that truth. The lesson for all of us who lead anyone is talk less, listen more. Be the space, not the hero. And finally, the big idea that I want you guys to walk away from this episode with is money is a tool. It was never the goal. The goal was always the life, the experiences, the people, the dreams you've been protecting deep in your heart. And if you spend your one life optimizing the tool while postponing the life, you've missed the entire point. So know the difference between what you want and what you need. Don't let your lifestyle creep swallow every raise so you stay trapped no matter how much you're earning. Get quiet enough with yourself and with the people you love to actually hear what you truly want. Then, for the love of everything, stop waiting for someday to go live it. Because someday isn't on the calendar, and the finish line you keep working towards is not guaranteed to be there when you arrive. Live the life now. Build around what matters. That's not irresponsible. When you plan it right, it's the wisest thing you can do. So if this conversation resonated, and if you've ever felt like you're grinding towards that someday without ever actually living, you need to talk to Ohan, and you need him in your corner. His firm is Alohana Financial, and you can find everything at alohanafinancial.com. The name, by the way, is a blend of aloha and ohana. Aloha meaning peace and the ability to give without expecting anything back, and ohana meaning family, where nobody's left behind. That tells you everything about how he operates. He also writes a newsletter called Alohana Moments, and you can find it at his site or on LinkedIn or even on Substack. Every piece is designed to make you stop for a moment and reflect on what you actually want your life to be. You can search his name, and there's nobody else with it. Very unique, so you should be able to find him pretty easily. Ohan, thank you again for coming back on, man. It's been a while since we first got connected, and I really appreciate our friendship. So I think we're getting closer to like 4 years now. And dude, every time I have a conversation with you, man, it's a gift. So truly, if you're listening to this recap, man, thank you so much. And everybody else listening, I want to leave you with one final reframe Ohan shared that I can't stop thinking about. He said a friend of his in the industry doesn't call it a midlife crisis. He calls it a midlife awakening. And that reframe changes a lot. A crisis is something that happens to you, something to survive. However, an awakening is something that happens for you, a wake-up call, an invitation to finally start living on purpose. Ohan pointed out this idea goes all the way back to Carl Jung, who suggested that up until about 40, life is largely just experience. And it's after that when you actually start to live. So here's the truth. You don't have to hit a crisis to wake up. You can choose the awakening right now. You can decide today that you're done deferring your life to somebody else that was never promised. So here's your challenge this week. Pull one thing off your someday list, just one, and take a single real step towards doing it right now. Don't wait until you're over 67. Not once the business is bigger. Now, book the thing, make the call, start the project. Because the whole point of building the business, taking these projects and challenges, making the money, doing the work was always for the life. So don't wait until it's too late to go live it. I'll catch you guys next Tuesday with our next guest. So until then, stay sharp, stay aligned, and keep surviving the side hustle. All right, sweet. That's a wrap on this week's episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If this conversation gave you something that you can use, would you do me a favor and follow the show? And then please leave a quick rating and review wherever you listen. It genuinely helps more entrepreneurs find these stories, and it helps spread the word of our guests. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, do us both a favor and share the episode their way. You can connect with me and find everything that we mentioned over at survivingthesidehustle.com. Until next time, remember, pay attention to what works for you and then do more of that. That's how you stop spinning and start winning.